and welcome back to Four Corners of the Galley. I'm your host PBO, and you're joining me on another edition of What the Bleep Westworld. Yeah, this is our little week-to-week recap review of each episode, and also where we try to help you understand and explain what's going on in Westworld, and maybe help you out, or maybe just make you more confused on what the bleep. We're all the way up to episode 3, and I've been practicing this. It's Virtu Fortuna. I hope I got that right. I think I did. So, alright folks, run this like we do every week. We're gonna do the opening to start, and then I'm gonna break in my little timelines, my little fun timelines, and then I'll do each individual timeline after that. So alright, so let's kick this sucker off. So this week we start off, and it's a cold opening. We don't get the start of the show. We get actually a shot, and it looks like we're in India, and it's this great, and it looks like it's actually back in the past India, like old school India, same kind of aspects as Westworld. So I should have known from that start that maybe we were still inside of the park, and this is another one. So we meet this individual. It's a gentleman, and he's there, and it looks like India, and you can see the Taj Mahal in the background, and a couple other features. And he's there, and he sees this woman that that looks across the way. And from the start, no lie, we thought this was Teresa, an older version of Teresa, because the way she was smoking the cigarette, it looked like she was Teresa. So that kind of tricked us at first. So then this lady and this gentleman have a conversation, and they go back up to the room because he wants to get freaky, and she's like, well, you look like something that they might offer here. So then you know you're inside the park. So now you know that outside of what we learned about last season, got a little glimpse of, which was Shogun World, which is the samurai world, looks like we're actually getting an Indian world to go along with that. I don't know what it is. Maybe they put India and China together, maybe kind of a cross, but samurai is more of the Japanese. So I don't know if it's like China and the Great Wall. No idea. It looks like two parks. It looks like there's a park for India where you get to go on in the old country of India and go back into the hunting where we see some little stuff. And it looks like we're also a Shogun world. I don't know if they're connected. That's what it looks like right now to me. I don't know what the Bleep Westworld. That's how it happens. So we meet them, and you're still thinking of the past, and she basically doesn't know if this guy's a human or a host. So she pulls out a gun and goes flat. I goes like, look, either you're gonna not wake up and I know you're a robot, or you're gonna get a little sting and we're gonna have some fun. So she shoots him, and I guess basically they want us to show what it should look like if a human shot another human, because we've never seen that before, and it should only leave a little bruise on them and not an actual bullet wound. So he gets this bruise, and then they go on to have their thing. The next shot we get is them actually in the middle of like the Indian jungle, and they're out there on these great giant elephants in the baskets on top, just classic old style stuff, and they're out there hunting bengals. So they get to this little camp, and I guess everybody there is hunting bengals at the same time, and the girl can feel like this is something kind of weird going on. And I guess that day was probably the day before season 1 episode 10's finale, which was that day we saw in India, and then the next day is the day after the events, because the hosts start acting crazy. She goes in the tent, sees that there's 2 guests killed, actual people are killed, and she comes out, and one of the hosts has got a gun. The other guy's trying to stop, thinking nothing's going to happen to him. He ends up getting shot in the chest. She ends up killing the host, escaping and running out there, and then a Bengal comes out of nowhere, because of course they're hunting Bengals. She shoots the Bengal, wounds it, and keeps running. This is where we get to see the wider scope of the park. She runs past this red line, and they're screaming a warning, you're out of bounds, and she ends up in Westworld, and this was where it all connects. So she gets into Westworld, she's on the cliff, the Bengal's still tracking her. She ends up getting the shot off, the Bengal charges at her, they fall into the thing. We don't know what happened. But what it does connect to is it connects to that scene in real time, the actual real time timeline, where Bernard and the mercenaries, along with Carl, stumble across that Bengal killed right there on the water. So that all connects. We will find out later about her results, but we get to find out this other cool part of the park that we didn't know about, another area that none of us have seen and did not even know it existed. So that was a great start and opening. They really tricked us with their whole, like, it could have been in the past thing, but I really love how it shows it all connects, and we got to still see another area of the park. Great stuff. So there you goes our start. Let's kick into these timelines and kind of show you where everybody's at and where they're kind of going. So let's kick to the timelines. Alright, so let's check out the timelines, guys. Alright, so let's do a quick little recap. This is last week's timeline, still showing the same stuff. You got the Westworld party night, Bernard washes up on shore, and the host dead in the water. You get Charlotte and Bernard on the run. We didn't get anything new on Charlotte and Bernard. What we did find out last week is the Men in Black and Dolores and Teddy are all heading to this valley that was built by William. And then Maeve, Hector, and Lee cross paths with Dolores and Teddy, and they're looking for Maeve's daughter. None of that's changed. So let's show you the brand new timeline I've come up with. So now we got Westworld Season 1 end. Bernard washes up on shore. Host dead in the water. But we got another line that we're going to learn about a little more that we get where Bernard Carl meets up with Charlotte later. So we don't know how that connects. We'll show you soon. Then we have the Bernard and Charlotte on the run. Bernard is captured, ends up at the same crossing paths now with somebody new in Dolores and Teddy that we'll show you and we'll get to. And then somehow some other stuff happens in the middle. We're going to have to figure that out. Along with May, Hector, and Lee are way deeper in their journey and kind of get a surprise visit at the end. Probably way more to come. Definitely not in the next episode, but probably episode 5. We might actually get some answers. So let's kick into how all these people got to where they're going. All right, so let's get back into the timeline. So we're going to start this week with Maeve, Hector, and Lee. We're going to start there because they're on their own little mission and they're kind of away from everybody else and they don't intercross with anybody, so they're on their own little path. So we catch back up with them, and now Lee is dressed as a host and he's in this pilgrim outfit, or he looks like he's on the farm outfit. He's out with Maeve and Hector, and they're walking. They're on the trek. They're looking for Maeve's daughter. They're having a lot of dialogue and discussing different things, and they come across these Indians or Native Americans, and it looks like they're tracking them. And basically, Hector comes over and starts speaking the dialect to one of the Native Americans, and they find out that they're allowed to leave, but they want Lee. They want Lee. They don't say why, they just want Lee. Maeve tells Hector that can't happen. I need him. He's important to me. So Hector is like, don't worry, run. Let's get out of here. And he starts shooting at the ground. At the same time, Maeve tries to stop these hosts and finds out that she doesn't have the power to stop these hosts. So she has the power to stop some hosts, but the Native Americans, these were also a part of the whole Dr. Ford's thing he was creating and the ones that he affected directly. So I feel like Ford has done more to their algorithm and their what's going on in there than she can control, and that's why they're on their own little narrative. So they start to run, and the Native Americans give chase, and they get to an outpost and get down, and Lee's freaking out, and it's this great chase scene. What I will say about this whole episode that I feel like it puts people in places and some things happen. This is more of the giant visual. Like, they had some gorgeous shots this episode of just some of the great scenery that we haven't seen yet. And this is the big action piece at the beginning. So to kind of like put everybody in motion and make people move around, they finally had a giant action piece that one happened. And then I felt like the next couple episodes people will move again, and then we might get another big action piece before we get a lot more movement. So they wanted to have a big action piece in the middle, give some people some rah-rah this time. But I thought the beauty and the great visual shots and exterior shots they did were just absolutely gorgeous. So they get down below, they're walking some more, and now at this point Lee is falling behind, and Maeve and Hector are truly falling in love with each other, and this is just bugging out Lee. I mean, this is just completely freaking him out, and he can't understand why they're doing this, because they're completely off their narratives. And what we come to find out is that Hector is completely written by Lee, and that this is what he wishes he was. This is the alternate ego of Lee that he wishes he was. The badass killer that takes no names, no prisoners, and takes everyone down, and is smooth with the ladies, smooth in general, but still pines for Isabella. And we find out that Isabella was one of his old girlfriends. I don't think it was his wife, but one of his old girlfriends that couldn't be with him anymore because of the job he was doing, and it was the pain. So he took his story and his pain, and he created Hector with it, and he couldn't understand why Hector is completely going away from everything that he created, because this was his his personal host that he put so much energy and effort into, and that he was falling in love with May. It was just completely bugging his mind, so it was driving him crazy. So they're having this great conversation back and forth, and Maeve is really digging at him and seeing stuff. At the same time, we stumble across their killer, Armistead. Armistead is wrecking shop down there again and lights this person on fire. And this great line by Hector, he goes, "Oh, she has a dragon," because obviously they've never seen a blowtorch or anything like that before. So I thought that was a great line. They all connect back together, and then what do you know? Armistead has been keeping hold of Felix and Sylvester. So, hey, Felix and Sylvester didn't die. So they're tied up. Maeve goes and lets him out, and she asks Felix, "Can you help?" And he's like, "Look, I'm out of my comfort zone." At the same time, Sylvester's got a grenade under his thing, so he can't, because he won't be quiet. So she puts a grenade under his chin to keep him quiet. She puts the pin back in, and now this big old group is on a mission again to go with Maeve to find her daughter. So they're back out now on their mission, and they're back out in the Westworld world, and they're way deep into the park. And he tells them that they're in the north edge of the park, and you start seeing snowfall. And this is the last shot of the episode, and it's snowfalling. And I felt like with the snowfall, it had that Kill Bill feel to it, with the whole end scene with with the great scene at the end of Kill Bill Volume 1. I blanking on her name, but it's Lucy and Uma Thurman in that great battle in the whole snow thing. It kind of gave me that same imagery, so that's what I was thinking the whole time. And what do you see at the end? Lo and behold, you see the samurai come out of nowhere. I don't know if it was a samurai, but you definitely see a gentleman with a big old katana sword come out of nowhere, and then boom, cut to black on a great cliffhanger. I feel like when we'll cut back, either Hector's gonna turn and shoot him, or Maeve is gonna turn and stop him on her motions, because she'll still have control over those probably. So that definitely was a great little fun thing that they did. And now we're gonna kick over. Another short part that happens in this episode is we get the real time, and I know it might be a little confusing, but you got to remember the real time is anytime you see Carl, the bald-headed gentleman with the mercenaries. That's how you know you're in the real time. Carl is the real time, because there is another scene they showed us earlier that tries to confuse you, but don't worry, we got you. So the real time, Bernard is with the mercenaries and Carl, and they're walking along the train tracks, and they're coming to basically where the middle is, where the whole main Westworld functioning tower is, and I guess where all these offices and people are, and they're trying to go inside. It looks like it's a train that takes them inside. It takes them to this place, and one of the mercenaries comes out and tells them it's bad. People are everywhere, blood, all kinds of nonsense. So they go in, and bam, what do we find? We find Charlotte, and Charlotte's there, and she's like, "Wow, Bernard, you made it." So at this point that we find out, Bernard and Charlotte split up, and they end up getting split up, and which we'll find out soon, and they go their separate ways. Charlotte is good, and she's here at the main corporate, and she's fine, and now Bernard or the mercenaries have matched back up with them. She goes to Bernard and asks him, what can you remember out of everything? Because they're still looking for the missing piece to this whole thing, which is this whole episode is about, which is Peter Abernathy, which is Dolores' father. Peter Abernathy, if you guys can remember, has the information inside of him that she put in there to try to get out all the information regarding the entire park and their host, and he's missing. So we get to find the story of Peter Abernathy when we go back to that point, but basically, right now, they're kind of reconnecting, and Bernard has one of his memory shakes, and he kicks back to the past. We'll get to that in a second. But the last little bit that they give you in actual time is you get the young lady in India who was in India wash up on shore, and she survived the Bengal attack, only for 3 Native Americans to be waiting right there for her and to take her. And we don't know what happens. We just see this great image of these gentlemen dressed up, and they're part of that narrative, and she gets taken away. So there definitely has more to come with this young lady and where she ties into the story, and that's kind of where they leave the real time, and they go backwards again, and we go back now to where we left Bernard and Charlotte, and Bernard and Charlotte were left where we left them last. Remember, she had that little secret place with the no-face drones, and they were looking for Peter Abernathy. Bernard figured out a way after, almost convulsing himself to connect and figure out where Peter Abernathy is. So they're on the little walkway looking for Peter Abernathy and the rest of them. They stumble across them, and we get the Milkman. And what a talk about lovely bringing back all of the first season hosts that we really didn't know we were going to know that much about. They come and play bigger roles later. So the Milkman, as I like to call him at this point, has captured a whole bunch of, he thinks, humans. So he's got all these humans lined up from the gala, and along with that, he's got Peter Abernathy, who's dressed in a suit, so I can understand why they think he's part of the gala. He's telling his guys, the Confederates are coming, and I get 15 ahead, and we're going to be rich, and I don't even know what the heck they're talking about, what money, so they're capturing stuff, they're on their full tilt, their own thing. Charlotte comes up with a plan to distract him, and she ends up, yelling out help, and the milkman goes over to try to capture her. At the same time, Bernard hits him with a rock and reprograms him. And he does the best stuff. He reprograms him to be virtuous, so now he's completely going to be good and help out. And then he makes him the fastest gun in the West. Now I feel like this is going to come back later on to really help out at some point. It does show a great narrative right here. Like I said, great action they put in this episode. But I also feel like maybe somewhere down the line, his fastest gun is going to come into play. So you get this great scene where now he's virtuous and he wants to come back and rescue these people who are being captured. And he's shooting everybody down. He ends up letting them go. And at the same time, the Confederati show up. He ends up shooting a whole bunch of them. And then this one lady that he was messing with beforehand, before he would turn virtuous, ran off. And he's trying to protect her now. And he goes away. So you have no idea where that's going. Then the Confederati, so all that happens and they all get dispersed. Peter Abernathy gets broken off and Charlotte and Bernard grab him. And they're trying to escort him now because he keeps saying he's trying to get to a train, so they're trying to help him get to where he needs to get to. At the same time, all these Confederates kind of surround him, and they're kind of surrounded, so they kind of get distracted. Charlotte finds a way to break free and run, and she ends up getting on a horse and getting away, and gets on a horse and gets away, and this is when Bernard and her get split up. So Bernard and now Peter Abernathy get rounded back up with the Confederalis and are going to be taken someplace, and that's where they split up. So their story is going to change now because Bernard's going to go somewhere, and what we find out is that Charlotte actually takes the horse and ends up getting back to the middle part where we meet her in the real time. See, this is all what the Bleep Westworld. I'm trying to confuse you with the stuff. Check out the clothes. When we re-meet her up before with Bernard and the mercenaries and Carl, the ball gentleman, she has no vest on. When we see her again with Bernard, she has a vest on. Kind of the clothes things. Kind of the little things you gotta look for. So she goes back in. She's got the vest on. And she gets back in, she puts her hands up telling these people that she's human because there's the first wave of mercenaries are there getting ready to sweep the park. Remember, this is right after the event. This is 2 days after the event. So now the mercenaries are trying to come in and clean this park or whatever. They're, the army come in and clean it. She ends up putting her hands up saying she's human. They take this scanning device to her back of her neck to verify that she's human. And she tells them, they're like, oh, we're about to go through. She's like, well, I need your best man to come with me, and I need one of those, and we're going to go on a mission. So they're all going to converge on this one spot, which we'll get to. So Bernard gets captured and taken by the Confederalis with Peter Abernathy. He's taken somewhere. Charlotte meets back up with the Delio security team, mercenaries, and she's going to take them and try to go get Peter Abernathy. And they're all going to converge in this one area where the main timeline happens, and we'll get to that right now. Alright, the big main timeline, the Dolores and Teddy timeline with her renegades and her horde, as she calls them. So it starts off exactly where we left her. We left them on their way to this giant fort with their new zombie robots. Remember, she killed them and brought them back to life, these Confederalis, the captains. And she comes back to this fort, and she meets the general. And the general's got his big old welcome party out there, and it's like a macho thing. And they meet in the middle on the field, and she comes out as Wyatt. She doesn't even say she's Dolores anymore. She goes, call me Wyatt. And he goes, oh, you're Wyatt. So somewhere programmed in his brain, in his system, Wyatt has been programmed as this super villain or person that runs it. So he knows who Wyatt is, and he comes to find out that she's Wyatt. So they're having this discussion about, she's trying to convince these Confederalis and this general to fight for her. She's like, look, there are people coming and they're going to take us out. And he's like, what are you talking about? So she's got one of her hosts, the one that was torturing everybody, dragging an actual human back to them. She drops a human down and then hands over the Confederalis their new tech gun, which is even higher tech, which is a freaking automatic rifle or machine gun, whatever you want to call it. She gives it to the captain. She gives it to the general, and he's impressed by it. And then they tell the guy to run, and he just shoots him. And he sees how powerful this weapon is, and he agrees to work with her. So this whole Dolores and Teddy are basically I like to call it the Alamo because it has that Alamo feel to it. They're like at the last stand at the Alamo with all these Confederales trying to set up shop, waiting for this first wave of, which they don't know if it's the first wave, but this first wave of Delio security mercenaries to come in and try to clear the park and kill all these hosts and reset this whole sucker. So they're waiting on that. So this whole episode is power struggle with just what's going on. Dolores and Teddy going back and forth and the whole setting up the thing. So they start setting up and preparing for battle. At the same time, the gentleman that caught Bernard and Peter Abernathy caught all the rest of the people and brought them to the camp. So now Dolores gets reconnected with her father. So she sees that it's her father and is overjoyed that her father is there, but she could also see he's distraught and demands for him to be released. One of the guys gets a snippy, and then Teddy comes over, and he's like a true bodyguard, knocks him out, and says, don't be disrespectful, and takes him to the infirmary. She also sees Bernard in there and kind of gives him a look, and like I don't know if you guys know, but like I said at the beginning, there's only a few people that know that Bernard is an actual robot, a host, and not a human, and she's one of them. She's one of the main ones. Her, Maeve, and Teresa, who's gone, and Dr. Ford, who's gone. So it's just two of them, and the other two are hosts. So Dolores knows who he is and says to put him in chains with the rest of them. Dolores goes over to her father and is having this big moment with them and trying to find out what is wrong with them. And because of basically what Charlotte has done in his brain by putting that passion and that huge chunk of information, it's really scrambled up his CPU, so he just keeps going through all of his old and different lines and characters and just reciting them, and he's completely lost in his brain. It's just like reshuffling the deck for him and keeps playing a different track at a different time, on random. You went to iTunes, click random, and just played music all on random. That's basically what he's doing. He's getting jazz, country, funk, all of it just spit out at different times. It's Shakespeare, it's his father, it's this, and he catches moments. It's almost like he has Alzheimer's. He has this great moment where he remembers who Dolores is, and they have this thing. She's talking to Teddy, and Teddy goes, "Who is that?" She goes, "Oh, you don't remember? That's my father." And he's completely blown away, and he's even more now a part of it. So that they have a good reconnecting scene, but she's very distraught. So she goes over and meets up with Bernard and really starts messing with Bernard because she knows Bernard. And she goes, "Do you even know the man that you were made after?" She's really giving it to him. She has gone so black hat, full Wyatt that he's completely can't believe how aggressive she is, and she's like, "Do you even know the man that he was? I wonder if there's anything involved in there." So she tells him some great stuff, and they really really get through it. And then he kind of asks her, "What's your purpose?" She's like, "To take over the world." He goes, "What are you going to take over this little heat? Take over the world?" She goes, "You've never been outside, have you? You don't know what it's like out there." She goes, "Look at this. People that we are things that cannot die, fighting for our lives." What a great metaphor. These are inanimate objects that are created and they cannot die, yet they're fighting for their life to survive in the real world. And she's like, those people out there are all survivors. They fight every day in the world, and that's the truth. We fight every day to live every day and to move on to the next. So it's a great symmetry and everything and back and forth. She also goes to him to ask for help, and she wants some help to help her father. So she has Bernard, and he uplinks it, and he's the one who finds that this code is encrypted in there, and he's trying to fix it. She's like, "What is it?" And this whole time he's trying to get it going. So it cuts back, and it cuts back, and the next thing is it's the time for the battle. So these gentlemen ride up, and they say that they're coming out of the ground. So so we kick back to where Charlotte is, and Charlotte met up with the Delio security and mercenaries, and they're coming out of the elevators with their doom buggies and their machine guns ready for their assault. So these guys are all getting ready. So this big battle of the Alamo, OK Corral, big standoff. So you just see this great shot of them rolling up on foot, no doom buggies yet, with their machine guns, and they just start shooting. And they're going against these old Confederate single shot bullet guns, and the Confederates are getting whooped. They got a couple shots in, and you get this great shot when the doom buggies roll in, and the Confederates' faces, they're just they're in complete shock. This is like a monster to them. This thing's got wheels and a roller, and they're like, and they're just getting wiped out one by one. They're really getting taken out. At the same time this is all going on, there's a backdoor trick coming, and it's Charlotte, I'm going to try to call her Teresa for some reason. Charlotte rolls in with her the little mercenary crew that she has, and they're busting in to get Peter Abernathy. She sends in two. They break into where Bernard is. Bernard, at the same time, finally cracks the encryption code and sees all that information they're trying to get out and realizes what's going on now. He sneaks out and kicks to the corner before they get in. They drug Peter Abernathy and start dragging him out. The battle is happening up front, and then Dolores sees that her father's being taken away, and she goes straight up Terminator towards them when it starts happening. So she sees that her father's getting taken away. Charlotte thinks everything's great. She's about to get Peter Abernathy, and then out of nowhere, Dolores takes out one guard and just starts getting shot and keeps moving, like Terminator, shooting. They end up getting away with Peter Abernathy, so we have no idea where Charlotte loses him at some point, because remember, we find out in the future that she doesn't have him. Dolores is pissed. She tells Teddy, get the horde. We're going in all different directions. And then me and you are going to Sweetwater. We got to pick up something. So she's pissed. She's going back now to where the fight is. At the same time, Bernard, he's all distraught and his hand is shaking. And you can see some of that white stuff is coming at him again. So he really looks like he's on the fritz. He's trying to get away. And the lady strong host that taken out everybody comes out of nowhere, cracks him over the head and drags him away. So now Bernard's being dragged away. Interesting stuff. Some things might be weird when it comes around there. We get back to the big Alamo fight. And this is when Dolores double crosses these Confederates. They're getting taken out one by one. She has her horde come in, lock the door on them. They get to the door. Then she ends up shooting them all. The Confederates put some nitrous, some TNT underneath, and they blow it up, and they kill all of the mercenaries / security of Delios, plus all the Confederates. The captain feels betrayed. There's like 7 of them left. We'll get to them in a second. She actually then sends her horde back out, and they do some like Game of Thrones-esque stuff where they reopen up the door and start killing each body one by one so no one gets up. I mean, just crazy. Obviously, they know about the zombie robots that can walk, so they just start hitting them in the head and the chest. All these people are dead. She goes to the back and tells Teddy to kill the one captain that helped him because he feels betrayed, and everybody else tells him to take him back and to take him down. So Teddy is now having this struggle within himself as he's watching the woman he loves and he's tethered to, Dolores, become full wide and just completely have disregard for anybody, and he's struggling in his own mind to do this. So he's sent back on a task to try to kill the captain. Him and the captain have this dialogue, and he ends up not killing the captain and these people and sending them away. But the bad thing is the whole time Dolores is watching this. So there's some theories out there and some credences that might happen. It's starting to really take fruition, and if I see it in the next episode, I'll tell you what my theory is that definitely happened, that I think happened. But that was a weird way for them both to end. So now Dolores kind of doesn't have that much trust for Teddy because he really showed her that he wasn't truly with her, and he did save the lives of this captain, and this captain's going to have a bigger role now down the line because now he's got a vendetta against Wyatt / Dolores. So that's going to be definitely interesting. So this is a great way to end this whole thing. Whew. Wow. There you go, folks. Episode 3 in a nutshell. What the Bleep Westworld. Man. I hope you guys enjoyed everything. Please come back next week so we can do episode 4 and have some more fun. Until next time, guys. Good night, Ted.